Well, hello, White Sox fans, and welcome to a special edition of the Future Sox podcast. My name is Ian Eskridge. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. James Fox. And we also have a gentleman who has been at the Score for quite a while and has had roles as a producer with Inside the Clubhouse and Hit and Run. And we'd like to welcome him. Hi, Sean. How are you?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. So we have you on because we've got Cubs White Sox coming up here, and it's generally a good idea to talk to somebody who is obviously you're in industry insider of sorts, being over at the station, and as referenced by your hat that you're wearing right now, you are a fan of the North Side Club.
I am.
So, first things first, I guess, one thing that everybody's really been harping on since the beginning of the offseason last year was the Cubs bullpen. And people are wondering why money was not allocated towards that bullpen in a place that was known to be needed to be addressed. So, your thoughts on what happened there?
Yeah, reports came out they went after Tanner Scott, right? It sounds like they attempted to go after some big names and thought about going after some guys, but when it was all said and done, the Dodgers beat them out. People just paid top dollar for relievers, and the Cubs have kind of always been against that. They keep seeming to think that they can find their next Ryan Tepera, their next Andrew Chafin, their Dave Roberts that gets turned into whoever. They keep seeing teams being able to do it. And for years, teams were able to do that. And every year there are teams that put those bullpens together that just kind of appear. But we're seeing it more and more. Like, you need stuff. You need elite stuff, and you got to be able to command it. The Cubs have been able to kind of pinpoint dudes here and there that have stuff, but no one with command. And that's kind of every bullpen in baseball. There's always some guys that have some heat, but the Cubs were maybe 2 years ago feeling like they were on the verge of just being able to produce pitching consistently. And now you're kind of coming into what is, should be a huge time for them. They just haven't been able to find those pitchers that have consistently been good. Now you're seeing guys too as well. Like Justin Steele's hurt. Shota Imanaga hurt now. You're seeing a lot of guys that they thought, I think, were going to maybe be relievers or kind of maybe tweeners or maybe guys that are openers, 2-3 innings, maybe back-to-backs. Now, like guys like Colin Ray, for instance, he's in your rotation. He's been really, really good. I guarantee the Cubs thought that was maybe a swing guy. That was maybe a guy that could come eat some innings, a guy that maybe bridges you to your bullpen on a day that you're short a starter or whatever it may be. They just haven't spent the money there. And it just seems like year over year, Jed Hoyer seems to think that they can find value there. And I think it's because they believe in maybe some of their prospects and their system. But outside of Kate Horton, there's no one really there big name. So they're really just kind of hoping someone appears and kind of shows that they can be a back-end guy. And that just doesn't happen very often.
Well, you said it. You brought up the stuff. I mean, they just don't have guys that miss bats, right? And they're expensive. Yeah. So when you don't have them in your system, it's tough. I mean, you see the move for Ryan Presley, and it's like, oh, that makes sense. And who is it? Is it Ryan Brazier from the Dodgers?
Brazier.
Right? He hasn't pitched yet, but I mean, he doesn't throw hard either. That's not. So somewhere, some way here, right? So this is a team that's, I think, pacing. They should win 90 plus games. I mean, their offense is unreal, right? Mm-hmm. But do you think back end bullpen is that the big trade move, or is it third base or one of the other needs? I feel like everybody's waiting for them to, just trade for a premium closer, and it seems like the last couple of years they haven't done it.
Yeah, and I think maybe, I don't know if this is maybe they're feeling the effects of going after a guy like Craig Kimbrell and it not working out, but that was also 4 or 5 years ago at this point. This is also the team that traded for Aroldis Chapman. So it's hard to see them, they know the value of adding a back end guy and how much of a difference that can make on your team and how important it is. It just doesn't seem like they want to allocate the money there. And it's so frustrating now, especially when you see them we don't have to get into all that, but the Cody Bellinger trade, getting Cody Petit back, DFAing him, you saved $18 million is what you did. And then you didn't allocate that money. So it's there. So you have to be able to think that the Cubs should be adding. And I think if you would have asked me a month ago, or even maybe just right after the Justin Steele injury, I'd probably say they might still go get third baseman. But now it's definitely pitching. You have to add pitching. I think you have to look at getting a starter. They don't really have any front end stuff. They didn't really have any front end, an elite front end guy at the front of their rotation. No ace, I guess you could say, at the front of their rotation. But I think you have to look at seeing that bullpen and say like Ryan Presley could be a pretty solid 7th, 8th guy. Porter Hodge looks pretty good. He's got the stuff to be a back end guy, but there's been shaky moments. Like Julian Merriweather, maybe not a guy that's in the circle of trust. Like if you put a closer at the back end of that, suddenly like everyone kind of slots in the roles that they need to be in. So I think we're going to see a back end reliever come to the mix no matter what. It's just going to be, is it the typical like lefty that every team's trying to trade for, or is it going to be a premium guy?
Yeah, we've seen the Brad Keller and Chris Flexen show over on the South Side. So I mean, we knew kind of what to expect there. I'm actually surprised
now
that
it's
Flexen
working for a contender. Like,
yeah,
you know,
that's so weird, right? It's so goofy to see like Brad Keller coming in like a guy that's been an opening day starter multiple times as the opener to Cade Horton's debut. It's just like, what a world, right?
So one thing that I have, talking to Cubs friends of mine, one thing they've asked me about is Ben Brown and the fact that he's got a plus pitch, and then he's got a probably somewhere around a plus pitch. What do you think the odds are of him developing a changeup to being usable so he has 3 pitches?
God, I want him to talk to Shane Smith so bad. I want to learn that kick change. That would be amazing. And it sounds like he's trying to throw that changeup more and more. The catchers have been like, I've been listening more like Carson Kelly and Miguel Amaya have both been like hyping up Ben Brown and hyping up this changeup. And Carson Kelly, like he implied they were throwing it a bunch in one start. Like I went back and tracked. It was maybe 3 times, but they're trying.
Much. It's like 3%.
And like but maybe that's all you need. Like Cade Horton threw his first changeup to Juan Soto for like I think his first strikeout against him. Like it's effective when it works. But you see a guy like Jordan Wicks too, who's got like an elite changeup but can't do anything but that. Brown's got such great talent. If he can develop that pitch, it's awesome. If he doesn't, though, he might end up solving a big need in the Cubs bullpen, right? And Matt Spiegel keeps talking about a nonstop and hit and run. He was trying to suggest it last year.
Yeah,
he wants him as a closer. Yeah. I was like, dude, you just can't. Like, this kid could be a starter. I understand he could be a fireballer in the back end there, but with his neck and everything with that, it's scary. It seems like that's past him. He doesn't seem like there's any issues there. I love the mentality he has. He's just like, he's like fired up and in like the most chill way possible. It's awesome to listen to, but I don't know. I'm not super confident he's going to develop that third pitch. And I think that's why the Phillies traded him, right? Like that's why they're like, this guy might end up being middle relief. And that's awesome, but like he needs to be more of what we're expecting. So.
Yeah. So you kind of touched on Cade Horton. I mean, even Ian, you've seen him a bunch in the minors. Best case scenario, like how many innings can this guy throw this year? Like, like, look, when we're as a White Sox fan, right? It's really like not something that's top of mind for me right now because it's like not that important. Now the innings are like right, but not like, oh crap, we're gonna have to shut this guy down in September innings, right? So, just like kind of charting this, like I kind of feel like. He's got probably the best stuff in the rotation. So if he's as good as he's projected to be and people think he is, they're going to need him. Right. So they're going to have to manage innings somewhere to like make sure he's part of this thing, like down the stretch somehow.
Right. And that's why you get a guy like Craig Counsell, right? Like he should be able to handle that. And that's part of the expectation when you plan on bringing a guy like Cade Horton up, he's going to have an innings limit. I'm sure the Cubs probably thought they'd have maybe like 2 more pitchers in that rotation than they do right now. Even like a Javier Assad make a little more sense. You get into like kind of a makeshift 6-man rotation. Maybe Cade gets 3 innings and comes out. Maybe he comes at the back end of a game. I like that they're getting him a start. I thought it was silly the way they approached it that first game. Okay, sure. We only want him to face these guys maybe once or twice. Sure. At the same time, though, he's going to have to face them 3 times to be good anyways. Why not just throw him out there? But it's going to be interesting to see how they monitor that because you're 100% right. Like you're going to have to monitor his innings. You're going to have to watch him. I mean, this is a kid that every year, and this is common for every pitcher, but this is a kid that went in from, being a football player at Oklahoma to just going from like kind of middle relief or whatever, to all of a sudden throwing a slider and then throwing it more times than he ever has all the way through the College World Series to getting drafted by the Cubs. Like this kid has been on a historic, like crazy rise. And it's awesome to watch, but you got to have to be careful with that because it's just every year is going to be a new threshold for him in terms of workload. And, he's so important. He's just like by no, like, it's not like hyperbole. He's the best Cubs pitching prospect they've had since a guy named Pryor or Wood, right? Like you got to take care of him. And I'm okay with that. If that means the Cubs have to eat a few games, maybe in August, okay, fine. Right. Like that's fine. If that means that, I don't know, Keegan Thompson has to get a start or something like that, fine. All right, let's do that. If that means Kate Horton's available in September and October, great.
Yeah, because Ian, I kind of feel like if they get there, and there's no reason to think they can't win the NL Central. I think that's a guy you want starting playoff games.
I mean, you would think so, but I mean, to the thing. I mean, like we're going through this right now with Grant Taylor. We've got this really top, really highly ranked top prospect that has amazing stuff, and they just moved him to a bullpen role where he's throwing one inning to quote unquote manage his innings, and I wouldn't be surprised if you saw that out of Cade Horton, unfortunately, just because he doesn't have that innings base built up,
That could be the way they approach it. I'm sure the Cubs are definitely looking at the way the White Sox approach things with some of their pitchers. I mean, they continue to bring up elite talent, especially from the left side. Yes, it feels like you have another lefty coming back for 3 years, but it might be the way they approach that. And maybe that's the way you go about it. The only thing that I always worry about there is like how much game knowledge are you getting from them? How much like actual experience are you really gaining? Like, sure, you're throwing pitches, you're executing, you're going through the motions of what would be a start. But at that point, it's like, might as well be an Arizona Fall League, or maybe the developmental league. It doesn't matter what they're doing at the plate. If their stuff's great, like, I don't know. There's still stuff you got to learn to play the game. And I feel like that part gets lost on some of these players. And then they don't have the common sense. But yeah, 100%. If it means Cade Horton pitches in September, October, I guess I'm game for it.
Ian, I think the Cubs need Cam Booser.
Yeah, they need one slightly used Cam Booser.
Yeah, lefty that throws 97 that it could be on the end of the road at any moment, but has 5 years of control. That's good. Like, yeah.
I mean, that sounds like the Cubs 7th inning guy.
I mean, you guys certainly could use the velocity and the guy's he's got some really nice pitches. His fastball's effective and his sweeper's really nasty as well. So, so you mentioned him earlier, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of move us in this direction here. Carson Kelly, is he like kind of sort of just found money?
Yeah, it's what it seems like. We talked to him actually on Hit and Run just last week. He's a really nice guy. He talked about when he first came over in Cubs convention at the start of the year that he was really reworking his swing last year, and he felt like he was seeing some of the results towards the end of it. And I mean, he's a former top prospect. This is a guy that has hit before. He just didn't for the Cardinals for the longest time as, the supposed, savior to the Cardinals backstop after Yadier Molina leaves. But no, I mean, I think like he's just a guy that has been really, really hot. He's had some good moments. I think he's putting together some good plate appearances. He's not missing mistakes. The power has been surprising, but he's just that bottom half of that lineup has been so productive for the Cubs, and he's just been, the benefactor of it a lot of times with a lot of runners on base. I think he's only still got I think he's just maybe cracked 100 plate appearances. So there's still, it's a small sample size. He's getting played 3 times a week, but I did see that Counsell DH'd him and also put him in the lineup. I think if Justin Turner can't hit, maybe they try Carson Kelly, but yeah, I mean, he's not going to have a higher OPS than Aaron Judge. I think that's going to change.
What?
Yeah. So, isn't that nuts?
Yeah, it's completely crazy. I mean, you just look at it. I think he's got 1 less home run than his career high ever or something like that already.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, the important part, though, you brought it up. He was a top prospect. It's just, look, it's in there somewhere, right? Me and Ian do the prospect thing all the time, and it's like, oh, this guy sucks or whatever. And it's like, I mean, you go in the first round for a reason. Now, you flame out or whatever, but talent was there at one point. So
right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, he was and he was expected to be the complete catcher. I thought he had a good offensive hit tool. He was supposed to be. People thought he was going to have an issue being a catcher. If I remember correctly, coming out. But yeah, so.
Speaking of guys that you don't know if they're going to be a catcher or not, you mentioned Amaya and Kelly, but you did not mention Moises Ballesteros that just got called up. The guy can rake. But I just, I watched him a bunch in the minors, especially a lot with the Smokies because they play the Barons a lot. Do you foresee him taking any innings at catcher whatsoever?
Man, it's so tough. I mean, he's 5'8" listed, so like he's shorter than that. Like and it's awesome. Like he's such a fun bat, such a fun player. He's like the antithesis of Daniel Vogelbach, but like still a really good hitter. I don't know. It's gonna be so I don't know if he can realistically play him at first base. It doesn't seem like the iCubs were able to do that much this year so far. So I mean, he's a DH. And, right now it makes sense because Ian Happ's hurt, but we know Ian Happ, when he comes back, will not only come back and play left field, he's going to take the leadoff position back. So there's going to be changes in that lineup. This might just be a cup of coffee for Mo Baller, but which I didn't know is his nickname until 5 days ago. But it's a good nickname. But he's a fun player. But yeah, I think you're right. He's probably DH.
Yeah, Happ's coming back next week. Is that what you're hearing?
So yeah. So I think I heard Mike Mulligan say that there's never been a 5'7", or it might have been Bruce Levine, say that there's never been like a 5'8" first baseman, and I'm like, there's a 5'7" first baseman on the south side right now.
Street,
so
just
go right across town.
The team you cover, Bruce. Come on, man.
5'10" my ass. So with that
close.
guy. But yes. So what do you think? So I've heard Cubs fans kind of talk about Ballesteros, right?
Yes.
Just as one of these untouchables, right? And look, I get it. Trading guys that can hit that much isn't great, right? But Suzuki's on the Cubs and you got this whole team full of guys and you're theoretically in a window. I just don't really see a spot for him to play. So if that's your headliner for something really good, or even a closer number 4 starter combo, right? And it costs you that guy. I feel like I'd be willing to do that, but I'm also not a Cub fan. So I'm kind of looking at it from the outside oh yeah, of course I do that. So
yeah, that's kind of how I feel about him. Him and Owen Casey both being in this system, it kind of feels like if they both make it to the big leagues, they're both going to probably play the same role. Casey can at least play the field. He could be a first baseman. He's a corner outfielder. Ballesteros is a really talented player, though. He's probably the better overall hitter. He's easily the best hitter in Iowa last year. He's going to be this year too. It's interesting because he looks like he could be I don't know, Jose Altuve mixed in with a little bit of I don't know, Pedro Alvarez. I don't know. He's just an interesting player, but I don't know what the ceiling is on him. And I do wonder at some point people are going to figure out a hole in his swing. What does that adjustment look like? He's just hit nonstop though since he's come through. So it's so intriguing, but I feel like that's a guy I'm selling high on if I'm being honest, especially if he's solving multiple issues for you and you can keep guys like James Triantos or Owen Casey in the system. Awesome.
Yeah, I think the offensive ceiling is really high. He's just a DH, and when you're the Cubs, it's just you can't do that every day. It just doesn't make any sense with the roster that you have.
Right. They just need players to be versatile. Even if you are going to be routinely a DH like a Suzuki, he's saving them so much. Him being able to play left field passively at least allows you to put up a guy like Moises Ballesteros. So
so the other guy that everybody's been waiting to make a push, and he started with the Cubs in Japan, and things didn't go so hot. Matt Shaw, I think he hit 2 home runs today. So it looks like he's figured something out. What do you think he has to do to make his way back up to the north side?
Oh, I saw it was he struggled so much against anything that wasn't straight. You could see it his swing path, his swing speed, everything just slowed down. He was just clearly guessing, especially when you fall behind in strikes, you'd see it. He only had 2 extra base hits. He had the home run he hit in Japan, and then he hit a fastball that was way out of the zone and into the gap in Sacramento. And I think it just shows you he was just so desperate to hit anything straight. He hit a ball for, basically a double. But he's just got to figure out, everyone was talking about his leg kick, all the like movement he has going on beforehand. Sure, if that gets him quicker to the ball and simplifies it, great. What he needs to do is pick up spin, and just be confident that he can swing through that pitch and still be able to put it into the right field. That's just kind of the approach he's going to need. And he probably won't, like, even if he is hitting in Iowa, it's probably not going to make him any better at that. He's just going to have to go to the majors and kind of probably struggle a little bit more. And I think that's what the Cubs are worried about. They kind of need third baseman to be there and be solid. So if their offense is buoying that to some extent, great. But like, it's already kind of offsetting so many other issues they've got. If it starts to crater, that's where you see the Cubs lose like a month's worth of games. So it's kind of a strenuous thing. I think the thing is that like Shaw he comes on the team, he'll be the best third baseman on the roster, hands down defensively, and that would be huge too. So.
Yeah, I saw you guys were having all sorts of issues over there at third base with Birdie, and then you had Gage Workman making errors over there as well. I mean, it was just like a comedy of errors over there at third base. So I can imagine that everybody's just like kind of waiting for Shaw to make that next step and make his way up.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of the plan. I mean, I think even Jed Hoyer said so much as that is like, the plan is for him to go down, come up and hopefully, be the player that we expect him to be. And, I mean, he's another guy too that just constantly hit. It felt like Cam Smith and Moises Ballesteros just constantly hit since the moment they entered the Cubs system for maybe about the last 2 years. I mean, Cam Smith, 18 months? Crazy what he's doing in Houston. He's struggling, but still, I mean, kid's so young. It's crazy. But, I mean, he's just such a good hitter. I think he will figure it out. I do think the biggest thing, and I was talking about this with Lawrence Holmes, like we were both saying, like he just hits so much. I feel like the Cubs kind of said like, all right, come up here, do what you normally do. If it's not working, then we make these adjustments. But like all you've done is hit and you just raked from the moment you came in our system. Like we don't want to adjust anything until you have to. So I feel like this is kind of a moment they maybe anticipated, but I don't think they expected him to look as broken as he did. And I'm sure that was scary.
Yeah, so this is like kind of a weird question, but like what's been more exciting? Like, I guess just like Kyle Tucker, being Kyle Tucker and doing Kyle Tucker things, or the breakout from Pete Crow-Armstrong?
I mean, like in the moment right now, it's PCA. I've been a PCA guy since I loved him in the draft. I was so excited when the Cubs acquired him. So it's been awesome to see him do that. But I think the biggest thing is like Kyle Tucker just being consistent and good. And like every like big walk-off or key moment the Cubs have had, Kyle Tucker's like just kind of involved always. Like he's either taken a key bat to walk the bases loaded to allow someone to hit that grand slam, or like he's hit the game tying home run to send it into extras, or a clutch double, whatever it may be. The guy's just been incredible. And it's just kind of like we saw flashes of a little bit with Cody Bellinger. They've kind of taken him and replaced him with obviously Kyle Tucker, who's a superstar. And he's just doing superstar things. And it's been awesome to see. I am still kind of waiting for the shoe to drop with this offense, though. It does feel like there's a lot of like positive like regression that could be coming here to some extent, but there also feels like there could be some like move to the mean. And it feels like there's some guys that are really hot, but at the same time too, we're more than a quarter of the way into the season. This Cubs offense has been consistently hitting good pitching. So if it's something we can lean on, I think it's just my pessimism that's getting in the way a little bit, but it's something they can lean on. I'm hoping for that. It kind of allows them to get really creative this year, but Kyle Tucker's the biggest reason that's happening.
So Ian, I know these people and I feel like you might too. Like I have buddies that are Cubs fans that have like told me, the suffering White Sox fan, like, oh, this is like every time it's like they lose 3-1, that's like, oh, this is the same Cubs team. And when they don't hit, like they can't win and this and that. And I'm like, look, this is a team that, should have won, 86, 87 games. Right. And then you add a superstar and you win over 90 because that's the way this goes. Right. He carries you through the doldrums and it's not the same team. Like it's just not, because when you add a monster, this is kind of what happens.
Yeah, I feel like if
Zach Zaven sorry, go ahead, Ian.
Oh no, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, no. I was just going to say, like Zach Zaven and I joked a bunch last year that the Cubs probably played the same game like 60 times, where they just like no matter what it was, 6th, 7th inning, it's 1-0, 2-1. They're either down or up. They need their bullpen to keep it close or maintain a lead because they probably weren't getting more runs, or they were only going to get just barely enough. And that just felt like that's what it was for a while. There's just been a bunch of games this year where the Cubs, just completely fell apart in a moment and then came back and won and stormed back. I think a couple of games against the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, they've had some meltdowns and they've had some bad losses. Every team will, but like it's been impressive to see the Cubs not let that stuff bother them, and especially like to come out of Tokyo, which like was rough to lose 2 games. Everyone's super excited. Then you got to go back to spring training for a sec to like come out of that and still be like playing good baseball through it all. Like, man, like you didn't hear anything about a London trip like you did last year with the Tokyo trip this year. No one's saying, oh yeah, this team's tired, this team's exhausted. No, because they went out and performed. So it's been impressive.
Yeah, I mean, you had Mookie come back and have whatever he had happen and lose like 30 pounds or whatever. That was bizarre.
Yeah, and then comes back and hits a walk-off homer. That guy's insane. That guy just feels like he could just show up and be really good at baseball at any point in his life, no matter what. But yeah, I'm glad he's okay.
It's
that
not
was
even
scary.
It's not even just baseball. It's everything. Have you heard about that guy?
Yeah,
He's like he's
insane
bowls like
bowler.
300 games and he's a scratch golfer and he can do all this other stuff. Like it's crazy. Like it's just absolutely ridiculous.
He's really like going to enjoy his teammate Tucker next year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really the scary thing, right? Is this guy's playing so good, the Cubs might just be like, we could probably find another one of these, right?
Well, so kind of going into that a little bit, like, as again, like a non-Cub fan who listens to a lot of sports radio and, like I'm pretty in tune with what's going on. Like the whole Jed Hoyer thing is like fascinating to me, because, he's never really built a winner on his own, but like he seems like he knows what he's doing generally, right? But he's like on a 1-year deal and he's got this good system full of block prospects. Like, I guess I'm just like waiting to see if he like goes full hog at he's just like trading these guys off to win this year because he has to, or if he feels safe or what. Like you would think they have to make the playoffs for him to be safe, but usually guys aren't allowed to build teams like with 1 year left on their deal. It's really like a interesting like situation and scenario. And then you add Tucker to the mix, right? Where everybody in the world is like, oh yeah, sure, give this guy 12 at 600 because what do we care, right? And they should do that, but it's just, we talk about how cheap the White Sox are. Like the Cubs' top signing's $184 million too. So which isn't one of the big boy contracts.
No, exactly. No, it's scary. It's very scary for me as a Cubs fan because it's just something Jed Hoyer just simply never did. And so when he does do this and goes out and makes a bold move, it's a good thing because they needed to make a change like that. But it kind of signaled to me, and the way he was talking kind of as they were showing up for spring training, like he knows he's not guaranteed a job. And I don't think he wants to be Jim Hendry and who drafts Javi Baez on the way out the door kind of situation, right? Like he doesn't want to be giving the next Cubs GM, whoever, on top of the prospects he's acquired after he traded away guys that he, had to go draft with the other group. So it feels like this is kind of the time to cash your chips in, right? Like that's why Moises Ballesteros, like you should be trading him if he's not found an everyday role in your team. Like Owen Casey, like if you're not moving him now, if he's not going to be a part of your team this year, okay, fine. Like, is he going to be a part of your team? If not, move him either for more prospects if you don't have, a need initially on the roster, which you should, but, find a way to keep moving through some of these players. Like you can't just keep holding on to these guys. And Jed knows that. And the other side too is like you can't bring them all up at once because then you have to extend 5 or 6 dudes. And that was exactly what they did last time. So it's a weird calculus he's tried to be in. And then like you add like he doesn't have a job next year. Like he doesn't work for the Cubs next year. Like, and like Craig Counsell's here for 3 more years. He probably came here because Jed Hoyer convinced him to do that. Like it's such a weird situation. Like people like Matt Spiegel keeps throwing out the idea that like, technically like Craig Counsell could just go and like Danny Ainge this and like go into the front office and hire another manager. And he's smart enough to do that. And that could maybe be the solution. Carter Hawkins, maybe, and him run this. But it's so weird. But I guess it doesn't matter if the Cubs win because he's probably back. So it's, I don't know. I spent a lot of time arguing about it with some friends. And now like, we're just like, man, isn't Kyle Tucker awesome? That's the talk now. It's weird.
I think that Hoyer's probably in a pretty tough spot here because he can't go full AJ Preller and trade, like 8 prospects away probably. And he definitely can't go Mike Elias either and hold on to all of his prospects because they need to improve somehow. And clearly it's not happening from the particular crop of players that they have that are ready to come up right now. So what's he going to do to really improve the team? He's going to have to make some deals, but I don't think that he wants to empty out that cache of players either.
No, I don't think he does. And I would be surprised if the Ricketts were to allow him to make a lot of big trades like that, unless they were, so like obvious, wins for the Cubs that they're making these kind of deals. But that isn't what happens, like you're going to get bent over a barrel if you're trading for a top talent. And that's why you're giving up top prospects. So yeah, I think you're right. It's going to be tough for him to move all these guys. But at the same time too, if you're Jed Hoyer, like, if you don't try and be aggressive at the very least, like someone else is going to take your guys and either trade them or find a better way to use them. And that's, that's the job. So,
and one of the main issues was he paid sticker price for all these guys that are like 3 to 4 WAR players. Right.
Yeah.
So when they struggle and they put up a 2.5 WAR season, you win 84 games. Now, one thing, that is a saving grace that wasn't expected. And we touched on PCA a little bit, right? But I mean, if PCA is a 7 WAR player every year and costs nothing, not that anybody wants to lose Kyle Tucker, right? But there is like some saving grace if Pete Crow-Armstrong's a superstar that's, all-star every year playing center field, which I think like looks like a damn good possibility, like at this point.
It's crazy. Like I saw something that like on like some of the misses that he had on like balls that were like a 0% chance catch rates, like how close he was. Like there was that one against I think it was the Mets where like him and Seiya were running, and like if Seiya doesn't yeah, exactly. Like I don't if Seiya just doesn't go after the ball, I think Pete catches that ball, which is nuts. Like he's got that type of talent, and that makes a difference. But yeah, I still would love to see him and Kyle Tucker playing in the same outfield. PCA would soften that blow, but like I'd be livid. I would be pissed as a Cubs fan if they let him walk and they don't replace him with something. So, yeah.
Was there a mechanical change for PCA, or was it just more of a comfortability factor that has kind of like spurred on this, newfound offensive explosion coming from him?
There was a little bit of a change. Mark Duros was kind of going through it about a month ago on I think MLB Network, and he was kind of showing like he's loading a lot quicker. You see the weight's a little more further on his back, and you can see where he's driving some of the balls. And yeah, there's going to probably be some swing and miss in the game. We saw that a little bit too, but when he's hunting pitches and attacking them, he's really kind of getting underneath balls and driving it. But it's just a little bit calmer. Just kind of feels like he's more patient in the bat, and he's widened up his stance a little bit. I think it just lets him see pitches better, especially if it's a pitch moving in on him. I think it lets him get a better idea if it's a 2-seamer coming out, whatever it may be. So just small mechanical adjustments, but I think the biggest thing is he's gotten a little bit further in the box. His stance is a little more just kind of loaded in the far back side. Just looks like he's ready to hit. A little less movement. Just kind of exactly what like you tell every kid that's in the box doing a little too much. Yeah. So it's just kind of working out.
I mean, his defense is so important because that's like what gets you the extended opportunity, right? Like how many times have we seen it where it's like, oh man, I really kind of like this guy, but 350 at bats in, like, a team's like getting ready to give up, right? Because there's like not this much value. But with him, it's like he can't, if he doesn't hit at all, like he could put up like a 2.5 WAR season still. So, I think the issue with guys like him, and I think he went through this, is like these tweener type guys can get in trouble because it's like a lot of people want him to be this like leadoff guy that's like slapping balls around and doing that, but he has power too, right? So then, you kind of get stuck in between, and then you're not doing anything. Then you're not getting on base and you're not hitting for power. So I think he has like found that a little bit. I would always lean towards like walking and sacrifice and giving some, striking out a little bit more. I want the power. I think he doesn't need to be a leadoff hitter for me. If he's playing Gold Glove defense and hitting homers, like I'm good with that.
And the Cubs have enough players on this roster that see enough pitches where you could stick a bunch of on-base guys in front of him. Like Ian Happ isn't the only one that sees pitches. Like the biggest reason Patrick Wisdom stayed on this team for as long as he did is like obviously he hit home runs, but like he was right up there with Happ in like pitches per plate appearances. Like it was crazy how many I think he probably led the league in 3-2 strikeouts last year with like plus pitches in there. Like he was just, just a pest as a guy that could hit home runs. Like the Cubs find a ton of guys like that. You don't need PCA to be at the top of your lineup and doing that. If he could be in the 2 or 3 or 4 hole, awesome. Like, that's great. Now you can go steal bases or hit home runs. Like, that's fine. Otherwise, if he's producing the bottom of your lineup, that's fine too. There's a ton of value in that. You're seeing that right now.
What has the Craig Counsell experience been like? Because I feel like, they give him $40 million, and I do feel like a lot of people were kind of like expecting him to be like a miracle worker, because he's more important than the other managers are because he makes more than them. I've always liked Counsell because I like guys who are the same every day, like regardless of whether they like that dude's the same dude every day. He's and I just like appreciate that, like, as somebody that played high school sports and coach high, like, it's just the guy that, like, when you walk, when you've had a boss who, like, you don't know what you're going to get every day. Like, it's
right.
just, everybody's like kind of tense. I think, that, like, I just like think you're finding out why he's like as highly regarded as he was, like, regardless of what their record was, like in his first season as manager.
Definitely. Yeah, you just like the humanizing moments that he's had, like, and just some of the stuff that he comes out and say, like, he was talking about, like, the Tokyo trip is like, this is an experience. Like, we as a team are going to go through this together. We're going to go, it's the start of our season, and just kind of like the way he approaches things. I think it works for a lot of different players. And on top of that too, like, he's just so smart. But he doesn't kind of like push it into your face. And I think a lot of players really respect that because they can tell, like, he's not necessarily reserved, but there's always kind of a little bit more that he wants to say, but he's thoughtful about what he's saying. And he's just he's the smartest manager in baseball. I thought that when he was with the Brewers. He's always been just ahead of everyone else, it feels like. And so, year 2 has been a little bit different. It feels like he's a lot more comfortable with these players. He talked a lot about it last year, just saying, like, it's tough to come in here and just kind of know who you're calling up and why you're calling them up. It's, you want to know guys more than just their numbers. And him being so analytical, he's just, I think Carter Hawkins and Jed Hoyer joke all the time with him that, like, Craig Counsell was constantly, like, in the R&D department, like, messing with them. Like, they were telling him, like, do we need to get you like a pair of khakis, because he's in the R&D department all the time. Just a crazy smart guy, and I love that. To be a guy that, like, could be one of the smartest guys in baseball, but also is like Bob Brenly's favorite player ever. That's just that doesn't make sense, but that's the Cubs manager, and that's really cool.
Ian Venable kind of reminds me of him a little bit. It's early, like,
I like Will Venable.
Still, we have no idea, right? But I just kind of like the temperament so far, and he's another.
The temperament,
he's a Cornell
sure.
guy, right? So I mean, like, he's super smart too.
Very smart guy. Like, and obviously, like, you work under Bruce Bochy, you just learn so much. And when he's like it sounds like Will Venable's just a sponge, just kind of absorbs everything, anything around him always. That's I loved his presser. I was really excited for the White Sox. I hope it works out because he's a fun guy to cheer for.
Yeah, I'm a fan. There are some things that that have happened that it had kind of had me scratching my head. But it wasn't.
Yeah, me too. But
it wasn't anything that was egregious. And I kind of feel like when you have to scrape every single bit of talent out of a roster that you possibly can, you're going to have to try some things and try and throw things at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, he's rubbing rocks together, like, for sure. Like
100%. Yeah, he's trying to make something out of that team, and I don't know. I mean, he's another guy too, where, like, and especially on a team like that with a lot of young kids, maybe kind of getting their first real chance at the big leagues, like, actually, and have a guy like Will just being as positive as he is, like, that's going to make a huge difference. But,
So I guess we can move to the upcoming series here and to the other side of town. Obviously, being at 670 the score, you have some insight into things that are going on over there as well. So, James, did you have, like, anything in particular that you wanted to get his thoughts on from the Sox side of things?
No, I mean, yeah, we can get into Sox in a minute, but just, like, as far as this series, right? Like, I'm just somebody that's like, I've never attended one of these games because I think those people are insane that are, like, willing to do that. Do you do those, Ian? Do you like the Cubs
just
Sox
once?
Game?
I did it once, never again.
I just don't like you show up to work and the female Cubs fan that doesn't know anybody on the team. It's just like, the Sox are terrible. They're losing on purpose. Like, the whole thing is kind of whatever. But I feel like with your job and where you work, right? Like, Does is there still juice? Is it more important, I guess, than I guess the people that like don't really care?
So, like, I mean, no, I don't think so. But like, there's definitely going to be stupid fights going on here in my neighborhood. Like, tomorrow, like, there's definitely going to be people who like come like running out of bars, like saying, oh, they try to charge us double because we're wearing White Sox clothes. Like, it's going to happen. Like that. It's just the dumbness and the brotherly love that kind of comes out of it a little bit. But no, I don't think fans like who are like following these teams as closely as like we are right now. Like there's really not like they're not really like going at each other.
6 games on the schedule. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, right. I mean, it was so much better when we would get 2-3 game series or like more than like I don't know. It was better when we get 4 game sets. It was the best when we would get them in June and July. Like it actually be summertime. Like I don't know. It just the rivalry isn't the same.
The Cubs have to win 2 or 3 though, right? Or it's like
yeah. See, I mean that would
that
that could ignite the rivalry if the Sox come in and sweep the Cubs.
They're playing well.
Like,
they're 7-7 in May.
Yeah, man. I mean that would flip the Cubs season on their head there for a second for some fans. It wouldn't realistically, but yeah, that would be that I would not. That would be such like if I have to produce a show on Sunday about the Cubs trying to not get swept by the Sox. Oh, that would be such a miserable show.
Ian,
but
so Friday is
Ron on the South Side would be stoked.
Oh yeah, Ron on the South Side. So Friday is Shane Smith against Kate Horton tomorrow.
That's a matchup, man. Right?
That's
fun. Yeah, I like Shane Smith a lot. We got a chance to talk to him as well too and hit and run. Really good dude. His story is so awesome. Just a lot of fun to pitch too. Like I mean, what a guy! Come out of here as a Rule 5 pickup, and he's just been nails for the Sox.
It's been kind of random, Ian. Like, do you think like would they use does it make sense to use an opener against the Cubs for Burke and Cannon? They've done it in other series. But it seems like kind of like random. Like if the R&D department says it's a good idea, all of a sudden Brandon Eisert is starting, and then like one of the Sox starters goes 6. I just because like usually to me, right, it's like lefty heavy teams. See if you can steal the first inning like with a lefty reliever and then go to your starter. But I just don't know. I don't know if the Cubs matchup is one where it's like you wouldn't start Sean Burke and Jonathan Cannon.
Yeah, I'm just looking something up here real quick, just to
because you got to get through. I mean, you got to get through Tucker and Suzuki, right? But
that's exactly what I was looking at. I'm looking at the splits here to see if it makes a difference because I really like. One thing about Tucker is he really doesn't. He's even.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, he
doesn't.
Everyone.
So I don't.
And he's just super aggressive against everything. Like you might only throw 3 pitches against him. He's going to probably swing it all 3. So I don't think it matters.
Sean, was there an explanation that I missed as far as like why it was Keller? I understand using the opener before going to Horton. Like I totally get it, right? It just that just had huge like bust potential to me, right? It's kind of like when the Brewers did it against the Cubs, right? Didn't they score like 7 in the first inning,
right? Yeah,
exactly. Because like to me, like if you're playing Oakland, right, and you let Tyler Gilbert get you out of the first inning to knock down 3 lefties, like that makes sense to me, right?
Yeah.
But just like starting like a former starter middle relief righty, like instead of Cade Horton, I don't really understand the strategical implication there, but it worked out for him.
My best guess on it was that Council thought that Keller could go an inning that game and maybe still be available tomorrow or later on in that series. That's probably because he did pitch that next game. That's the way I think Council was looking at it. I think he was trying to think like who's got good stuff to come to a game to start, who's got experience doing it. Keller's, I think, the only one in that bullpen that probably did. And he was a guy that had gone multiple innings or multiple outings in a row. I think that's the way Council looked at it. It was just like, that dude can pitch today and also pitch tomorrow for Smart. Let's do that. And then he just threw him in there, and that was probably the end of the conversation.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't see really much of a motivation there to use the opener against the Cubs because it's like it's one thing when it's like Ellie De La Cruz and you've got like a heavy split advantage from one side or the other. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
With the Cubs, I don't know that it really makes sense
Yeah,
to
it might
do it
not.
in this one. But I mean, there could be some sort of matchup things here that I don't know about that they do.
Cannon's changeup worries me against the Cubs. It feels like those kind of off-speed pitches just kind of really mess with their bats, at least in years past. I can't say it hasn't been this year, but like Seiya Suzuki just always looks like he's swinging through cement against a good changeup. A lot of these young bats, that could be a good matchup too.
So
There's
what
a
are
lot
your?
of change-ups.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
There are a lot of changeups, and it's not premium fastballs either. So which has been kind of interesting. So what are your, I guess, just general takeaways of the White Sox situation? I think it's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit different than last year as far as like we see them win a game the other night, and it's 3 or 4 guys who might be important. Getting it done. I think kind of changes things, right? I've even seen the tenor on White Sox Twitter. People are
Yeah.
people are back watching again because it's if like Edgar Caro does something and Chase
Yeah.
Mardroff does something, right? Those are guys who could theoretically be on your next good team. So it's a little bit more interesting than it's been.
They're fun. They've actually been a lot of fun to watch this year. I had a really hard time watching them last year, and I had to, obviously, for work. And I mean, it was just brutal. I felt bad for Sox fans last year, just because it's like, what do you got to cheer for? At least this year, like, yeah, they might lose a lot of games here, but Edgar Caro looks good, and that's a guy that, like, just the bat is so smooth. He just loved him going the other way. Steve Stone also loves him going the other way. It is hilarious how many times the guy Edgar Caro going the other way there. We actually going to have him on Sunday. It'll be fun to ask him about that. But
Edgar, yeah,
yeah, he's a good player. Chase Mardroff too is another like really talented guy. Like obviously he had that one gaff, but he's been a lot of fun. He's got a slick glove. He's a really good player. I don't know what his future ceiling looks like, but these are guys that you can at least like theoretically think they're going to be around on a team for these next couple of years. So, and then I mean the arms, gosh, dude, like you talk about Grant Taylor as another dude. Like Hagen Smith looks awesome. I know he's probably still a year or so away, but I mean there's a lot of talent in the Sox system here that it's going to be fun to watch. And then Kyle Teal, like how does that guy factor in all this? It got went from no catchers to a bunch of catchers in this Cub system or this White Sox system.
it's going to be a little bit of a crunch. I mean, it's something me and Ian kind of talk about a lot is like
Yeah,
the 40-man roster and just trying to. Because look, even if like it's really easy to wipe away like, oh, this guy stinks, just DFA somebody. But like there are actual like decisions that have to be
yeah,
made. At some point, like when you sign veterans, even if it's for 2 million, like if they have guaranteed deals, like they're probably on the team, right? So there's going to be a couple of moves before tomorrow's game, and
yeah.
Corey Lee is due back at some point, and Teal could be not far behind him. But yeah, I mean, you have the catcher is the least of their problems. Right?
Yeah, yeah, they've got three pretty solid options, honestly. And then I mean, Colson Montgomery's a concern. Obviously, we'll see what happens with him because he's doing that. He's in the developmental league now, right? Just kind of like working on
He's
his
back.
swing
He's
or
back
something.
in AAA.
Is he back now?
He had
Cool.
2 doubles tonight. He's been hitting
Awesome.
pretty well the last couple of games. So we'll see.
That's really encouraging. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a guy, obviously, right? Like he thought he'd be the shortstop
And,
this year, right?
and I do think it's a situation where like all of a sudden he's going to be in the big leagues because they're not going to risk like if he does this for another week and a half or so, they're not going to want him to go back in the tank and then he's stuck down there. I think they'll just promote him and we'll see him honestly. And
that's what I would do. You know what I mean? Like, what harm is it going to do if he's struggling with the Sox or struggling with AA here? At least if he's with the Sox, like that's the team that he.
Well, and then you kind of have the built-in excuse too of like, oh, of course he's struggling. It's the majors instead of like he went back in the tank again in AAA and like the awesome hitting environment in the International League.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been barreling the ball up really well for the last couple of days. So, I mean, like the first game or two that he came back, I was like, I don't really see anything different, and it didn't look like a whole lot of change. But then, probably the second game or third game, he started hitting line drives, and it looks he looks like he's kind of back to normal, maybe even possibly even better than he was before, and it seems like his plate coverage is a little better and his swing's a little bit more on plane, so he's making some nice contact. So
that guy, I mean, if that guy comes up and just like looks like he could be a guy, it doesn't even have to be good. It looks like he'd be a guy that probably changes the whole outlook on the Sox season this year, regardless, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's been dropped out of like every list everywhere. So,
which is ridiculous. Like, he's still a good player. I mean, I get he struggled, but he was hurt. Like, come on, I don't know. Let the kid figure it out here.
I just think I think the issue is, me and Ian have talked about this too. I think he got too high on lists. Like, he got higher than he should have been. So then he's getting dinged too much for struggling. But I mean, he's been pretty bad statistically. So like, I get it.
I get it's been rough. I know, but I mean, you're right. I think he was rated higher than PCA last year, coming out of like some rankings. I want to say like Baseball America put him up slightly higher than him. I think it was like 13, 15. I mean, at the time I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Colson Montgomery's good, but yeah,
that was a tough one to watch last year. You know, you just watching him go out there and do the same thing over and over, and it's just so many strikeouts, and you know, like the numbers just you're expecting it to at some point just like for something to click and him start going up, but I mean, it was just like same thing over and over. So yeah, tough stuff.
That sucks.
There was a for all the awesome things that happened in the White Sox minor league system last year, between like the couple of bad things that happened, moving into this season with 800
Tommy John surgeries,
800 Tommy Johns. I mean, it's been a weird ride. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So what kind? So obviously, like the 670 is the flagship of the Cubs. You'll have all the games. It'll be a bunch of talk this weekend. What responsibilities do you have, and then what shows can people hear you on right now?
I'll be on Inside the Clubhouse on Saturday. I'll be helping out Bruce and David. We'll be doing stuff. I don't think Bruce might be going live from Wrigley. He might be in Pat and Ron's booth, but David and I will be in the studio. And then Sunday we'll have Hit and Run. I think we're hoping for Justin Turner, actually. So we're hoping he hops on with us, but we've got Steve Stone coming on with us at 9:30, I believe. And then Jordan Schuster from
MLB.com.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then what is it? Cespedes Barbecue, whatever they do for Yahoo Sports and whatnot. So he's going to come on and join us. That'll be fun. But yeah, be all over Cub Sox all weekend. So.
Very cool. James, do you have anything else you want to delve into here? All right.
No, I think we're good, Sean. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens this
thanks,
week.
Guys.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate your time and the knowledge and everything. And hopefully something interesting happens this week. I don't know. I kind of have to imagine that the White Sox are going to have a little bit of a tough time, but you never know. You never know.
I mean, the Cubs struggled a little bit against the Marlins, so you just don't know, right? I mean, it could happen. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for a fun series. I hope no one gets punched in the face, on the field, off the field. Let's just be fun and enjoy our baseball teams. But yeah, it'll be fun to see the city come together and goof around a little bit here this weekend. Hopefully, we get some good games.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I don't know what you know, but there's incident at Murphy's tonight. I don't know what happened. There's like possibility of firearms being smuggled around in flagship meat.
Yeah, I just saw something about that. I was somebody right before I jumped on with you guys. What in the world? Yeah, this place is interesting.
All right, well, thanks so much for coming on, and we'll continue to listen and hear your shows on the Score. We appreciate your time. And we will catch up with you. I don't know, maybe the next series if something crazy is going on. Who knows? Thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.